What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. And today I will be recapping week 2 of college football. Woo boy, I said week 1 was good. I mean, week 2 maybe was even better. It was crazy week of college football. I'm going to recap it, let you know what happened, even though y'all all probably watched it, but let y'all know what happened, recap it, plus give the top 10 at the end of the video, in my opinion. I've left timestamps in the description. If you want to see a certain part of the video, see me talk about a certain game, or just see my top 10, yada, 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 you can go down there and see those timestamps. Thank you for clicking on the video. I love college football, and I talk about it all the time. Please continue watching. But let's hop into the recap. Most of this video will be focused on the first game I'm going to talk about. So if you do not want to hear it, you can go ahead and skip. But the first game I'm going to talk about was the best game of the weekend. And it was the most hype coming in. It lived up to the hype. Number 1 Alabama beat Texas 20-19. Roll Tide, roll Alabama. Happy as I'm an Alabama fan. Maybe not happy with everything, but a win is a win nonetheless, even if it's just by 1 point on a last-second field goal. But, wow. This game was just wow. Alabama is lucky to have Bryce Young. I don't know if Alabama wins this game without Bryce Young. I mean, those plays he made on the last few drives, I mean, he's clutch. He showed it last year in the Iron Bowl. He's a clutch quarterback. I mean, that play where he scrambled out, first and goal, he scrambled out, threw across his body to Jahmyr Gibbs, touchdown. That was insane. And then on the last drive to set us up in field goal position to win the game, defender blitzing right at him, somehow missed him, and scampered for a big run to put us in field goal position. I mean, like I said, Alabama's lucky to have Bryce Young. I don't know if Alabama wins this game without Bryce Young. Speaking of winning the game and quarterbacks the teams didn't have, Texas fans will say now until next year when we play them again that Quinn Ewers, if he didn't get hurt, they would have won. And they've said this for years already. This is just a repeat of Colt McCoy. Alabama fans have had to hear it from Texas for years. Oh, if Colt McCoy didn't get hurt in the national championship game, Texas would have won. Oh, what if Colt McCoy didn't get hurt? Oh, but you didn't understand. Colt McCoy was hurt. And it's going to be the same thing with Quinn Ewers. Oh, Texas would have beat Alabama if Quinn Ewers didn't get hurt. Quinn Ewers got hurt. What if Quinn Ewers didn't get hurt? It's going to be the same song and dance. But I don't want to admit this, but they got a point. I mean, Quinn Ewers was feasting. He was feasting. He had 140 yards passing in the first quarter alone. That's on pace for well over 500 yards, I believe. I mean, the dude was balling. He was throwing deep balls with accuracy. He was making some very impressive throws, and he looked poised. I mean, I might kid around with my friends, but, I mean, Quinn Ewers is that guy. He is a beast. And it's unfortunate to see him go down like that. Now, the play where he went down, I don't think it was a dirty play. Dallas Turner, the player who hurt him, he is a 6'4", 240-pound man. And he was already lunging towards him. A 6'4", 240-pound man cannot just stop in his tracks. That's not possible. I don't even think Dallas Turner knew he threw it away. I don't think it was dirty, but I hate to see him go down. Quinn Ewers, such a talented player, and I hate to see anyone go down. I don't like injuries. Injuries may be the worst part of football. So I hate to see him go down. I hope he'll be back soon, but it looks like he'll be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, which is unfortunate. But Texas, man, Texas is a very underrated team. They gave Alabama their all. And I've said this even before this game. Go back and watch my last video. I said they were honorable mention for the top 10. They're a top 15 team. Even last week before this, I was very high on Texas. And I told y'all that Alabama would not cover the spread. I'm an Alabama fan. Roll Tide, roll, bleed crimson and white till I die. But I told y'all Alabama would not cover that spread. Texas was too talented. Yeah, give me number 1 Alabama at Texas. I think Alabama wins. Now, do they cover the spread? No. I do not foresee a game where Alabama covers the spread. And I was right. Texas had Quinn Ewers, and while he was in the ball game, Texas was doing amazing. They had Quinn Ewers. They had B. John Robinson, the best running back in college football. They had Xavier Worthy, who dropped some passes, but still an incredibly talented wide receiver. Plus, Overshone, the defensive player, amazing defensive player. Plus, that whole defensive line played amazing. I mean, I believe Texas is a top 15 team. You'll see tomorrow, or no, not tomorrow, later in this video. My apologies. Working on several videos. You'll see later in this video, Texas is still an honorable mention in my top 10. Still an honorable mention because I believe they're that good. And I believe they could run the table. Seriously. They could run the table in the rest of this year. But now I'm going to rant. I'm going to rant for a little while. This was some of the worst I've seen Alabama play. And granted, I've only been watching football for 5 or 7 years, which is not long in the grand scheme of things. But I mean, still, terrible. We played so undisciplined. This did not look like a Nick Saban coached Alabama team. I mean, Nick Saban said it himself. This was not Alabama's brand of football. 15 penalties. 15 for 100 yards of penalty yards. The most penalties in the Nick Saban era. I mean, it was like a penalty every other play. And honestly, the rest might have missed some. Now, they probably missed some on Texas, too. I know they missed some on Texas, but they missed some on Alabama too. But most of them were deserved. Most of those penalties were deserved. We committed most of them. I mean, it's embarrassing. We played terrible. And I don't like to blame any one person for a football loss. I think that's stupid. I think that it's a team sport. But I mean, if you had to blame somebody, it's Bill O'Brien. I mean, fire Bill O'Brien. I'm off the Bill O'Brien train. I've never played football before. I don't claim to be an expert. I just like to talk about it. But fire Bill O'Brien now. I've seen enough. I didn't like the hire when we first hired him, and I especially don't like the hire now. He has not been good at Alabama. He has wasted potential. You have Bryce Young, one of the most talented players to ever enter the Alabama program. I mean, the top 4 most highest rated quarterbacks coming out of high school, number 4, Bryce Young, number 3, Justin Fields, number 2, Trevor Lawrence, and number 1, Quinn Ewers, Texas's quarterback. So, Bryce Young, one of the most talented players to ever come out of high school. And one of the most talented players to ever play for Alabama. And you're wasting his potential. That offensive line is not playing great. The wide receivers weren't playing great. I mean, Alabama's had some great wide receivers in recent years. Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, John Mechie, Jamison Williams. And I don't think we have that intensity this year. Even though Jermaine Burton, Trayshawn Holden, Ja'Cory Brooks, they're all good. They didn't show up versus Texas. And I just don't think they're the same tier as wide receiver as we've had in previous years. But, I mean, everyone played bad on the offense except Bryce Young. It's embarrassing. I don't know why Bill O'Brien went away from the run game. The run game was working. We had a long touchdown with Jace McCullen. Jahmyr Gibbs was picking up yards. We were averaging a lot of yards per rush. I do not know why he went away from it. Does not make sense to me. I'm over Bill O'Brien. I've had enough. I've seen enough. I'm ready for him to be gone. I do not like how he's called this offense. I mean, even going back to last year versus in the Iron Bowl or in the national championship, I'm not going to go too far into those games, but the fact we didn't score a lot in those games is embarrassing too. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it. This video would be an hour long if I did, but we didn't play great last year, and this has just shown me more of the same. I do not like Bill O'Brien. I cannot wait for the day he's gone. But that's enough about Alabama. Glad we won. Will Reichard kicking the game-winning kick. I'm so proud of him. Fun fact, or really not a fun fact, that is the first time an Alabama kicker has made a field goal in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter since 2006. I mean, Alabama has not had luck, as you know, with kicking field goals in the fourth quarter. But my heart was beating. I was sweating. I mean, I was absolutely just stressed over this game, as football fans do with their teams, especially with the kick. But Will Reichard kicked it. It was good. Alabama won. Roll Tide. Okay, that's enough of that game. I'm sorry. I had to rant about it. One of the best games you'll see all year, and I'm glad my Crimson Tide won, even if we didn't play great. Roll Tide, roll. Okay, got to shoot fast through some of these other games since I spent so long on that. Let's talk about some of the upsets. And boy, were there upsets this week. Marshall, the biggest of which. Marshall beat number 8 Notre Dame 26-21. Wow, what an embarrassing loss for Notre Dame. I mean, what is happening to Notre Dame? Maybe Marcus Smart isn't the guy. I was high on Marcus Smart. I like Marcus Smart. But maybe he isn't the guy because this is embarrassing. I mean, this week and last week, Notre Dame's offense has just not been able to get anything. I mean, it's embarrassing. Notre Dame should not be playing this bad. Their offense stinks. I mean, it makes me look bad as Notre Dame has started off 0-2. I predicted Notre Dame to go to the playoffs. And I look like an idiot now. I did not expect this. Big win for Marshall. Congrats to Marshall. Notre Dame was favored by 20.5 points. 20.5. And still lost. I mean, embarrassing loss. Notre Dame, a top 3 college football program of all time. It's tough to see. I really thought they were going to be really good this year, but apparently not. And Marshall beats number 8 Notre Dame. Then, oh boy, this game. Then Appalachian State beat number 6 Texas A&M 17-14. Oh boy, I was glad to see this game. I do not like Texas A&M. I do not like Jimbo Fisher. As you know, I'm an Alabama fan. And obviously, Alabama has not gotten along well with Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher this past off season and last year. A&M was favored by 18 in this game, and Appalachian State beat them. And, I mean, Texas A&M got that number 1 recruiting class. That's what they've been talking about. Oh, we got that number 1 recruiting class with all that money they paid for it. And what do they have to show for it? They have a loss to Appalachian State to show for it. The Texas A&M offense has just looked terrible. It's looked bad. Haynes King does not look like a good quarterback, and it's embarrassing. Jimbo Fisher is just not reinventing his offense like he should be. Nick Saban did it a few years ago. It's time for Jimbo Fisher to do it too. Chase Bryce, the quarterback for Appalachian State, he used to play for Clemson, and I'm glad to see the guy do something good. He's been in college football for forever. And the last thing I'll say about this game is I cannot wait for October 8th when Alabama plays Texas A&M. I think it's going to be a whooping of biblical proportions. But you know what? We'll wait until October 8th. Next, Washington State beat number 19 Wisconsin, my bad, at home. Washington State's first win over a ranked opponent since their 2018 run where they had Mike Leach and Gardner Minshew. I mean, Wisconsin was favored by 17.5 at home. It's just not a good loss for Wisconsin. Wisconsin was a big pick to go to the Big Ten. Maybe not win the Big Ten since Ohio State and Michigan, but definitely go to the Big Ten championship. And this is a bad loss for Wisconsin. Washington State beating them 17-14. And our last upset. I know some people will be glad about this game. I know some of my commenters are very happy about number 20 Kentucky beating number 12 Florida 26-16. Kentucky made some mistakes in this game. If it wasn't for those mistakes, Kentucky could have won by a lot more. I mean, that Heisman hype that Anthony Richardson had, I mean, he did not look that great this weekend. It died out fast. Anthony Richardson did not look like that guy. He did not look good at all. And big win for Kentucky and big win for Mark Stoops. As Kentucky gets a big win, and we'll see how Kentucky does later on in the season versus Tennessee and Georgia, but this is a big win for them right now. Florida was favored by 4.5. I predicted Florida to win, but you can't predict them all, as Kentucky beats Florida 26-16. Then a really late game, but I believe it was number 21 BYU upsets number 9 Baylor 26-20, double overtime. This was a great game. I mean, go watch the highlights on YouTube. This was a great game. It was very surprising to me. I had Baylor number 5 in my poll. I thought Baylor was a very, very good team. But maybe BYU's just better than I expect. I don't know. But very shocking. I thought Baylor would win this one easily. Not only would Baylor win, but they would cover the spread. But they didn't even win. So, a big upset for BYU. Now, some of the ranked games. Another ranked game between ranked opponents. A great game. Number 24 Tennessee beat number 17 Pitt 34-27 in overtime. I mean, just a great game. A back and forth battle. I nearly predicted this game. I said 35-28 Tennessee wins and they cover. But it was 34-27 and they cover. 1 point off. But, you know. Caden Slovis got hurt in this game. That was a big reason for Pitt losing, in my opinion. But I think Tennessee would have won regardless. And Hendon Hooker looked great. He was the SEC Player of the Week. And for a good reason, he was a very good quarterback. And Tennessee, they're looking dangerous. I hate to say that. I hate Tennessee. But they're looking pretty good. And they beat a talented Pitt team at Pitt. Now I'm going to speed through some other games. Number 16 Arkansas beat South Carolina 44-30. About what I expected. A 14-point victory for Arkansas. The difference in this game is Arkansas ran the ball effectively. Their running back was insanely effective. Over 150 yards rushing, I believe. Rattler and Jefferson played good, not great. Rattler played all right, not great. Jefferson played all right, not great. But Arkansas beat South Carolina 44-30. I'm a big Arkansas respecter, big on Arkansas, and I think they can give Alabama a fight in a few weeks. Alabama has to go down to Fayetteville in a few weeks, and I think Arkansas is going to give them a fight. I think Alabama's going to win, though. Roll Tide roll. I know Alabama's going to win. Then number 23 Wake Forest beat Vanderbilt 45-25. I thought Wake Forest wouldn't cover the spread, but I was wrong. I did predict them to win. It was nice to see Sam Hartman back. There were some reports that he originally wouldn't play at all this year. So it's nice to see him back, throwing for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Vanderbilt's, little 3-0 or 2-0 happy streak they had comes to an end as Wake Forest wins 45-25. Then number 3 Ohio State beat Arkansas State 45-12. Ohio State struggled early but woke up quickly. They struggled only for a little bit, but they woke up, handled Arkansas State like they should. Marvin Harrison Jr., the son of an NFL legend, one of the most underrated NFL wide receivers of all time, had a huge game. He played great. 180 yards and 3 touchdowns receiving. Amazing game for him. Then number 5 Clemson beat Furman 35-12. This is about what I expect. DJ Uga, I don't mean to mispronounce his name. DJ Ungaangale. My apologies. He still didn't look great. He's still not the guy. But Clemson will figure that out soon enough, in my opinion. But Clemson doesn't look like years past. And I don't know if they look like a number 5 team in the nation. Then number 2 Georgia beat Samford 33-0. I mean, I don't have anything to say other than this is expected. And Georgia is dangerous. Then number 10 USC beat Stanford 41-28. And man, USC's offense is legit. They look like the real deal. I've said it for years on this channel. I've said it for 3 or 4 years on this channel. Lincoln Riley is an offensive genius, which may not be a hot take. Everyone knows that, but he is. He's an offensive genius. And Caleb Williams looked amazing. I mean, 20 of 27 for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's an insane stat line. Jordan Addison, the wide receiver from Pitt, the Biletnikoff winner from last year, played great. 170 yards and 2 touchdowns receiving. I mean, USC looks like a dangerous, dangerous team, and their offense looks amazing. Then, number 4, Michigan handled Hawaii 56-10. This is about what I expected. Michigan dominates. It was 42-0 at half. I mean, that it's about what I expected. And it looks like J.J. McCarthy is the starting quarterback. Finally solidified. J.J. McCarthy is the starting quarterback for Michigan. Then, I talked about this in my Scott Frost video. Go watch it if you haven't. But Georgia Southern beat Nebraska 45-42. Scott Frost, obviously, this was the last nail in the coffin. They fired him over this game. But this is just an embarrassing loss for Nebraska. A historic program like Nebraska shouldn't lose to Georgia Southern like this, 45-42. Nebraska's 13th straight loss by single digits. That's insane. And I mean, like I said, a program like Nebraska should not lose to a team like Georgia Southern ever. Then Auburn beat San Jose State 24-16. Auburn struggled. I do not believe in Auburn this year. Maybe partly because I'm an Alabama fan, but hey, they were losing 10-7 at half with San Jose State. That's embarrassing. Auburn does not look like a good team this year, and I believe they might get exposed this week by Penn State. In LSU, final game before I go into my top 10, LSU absolutely destroyed Southern University, 65-17. I mean, LSU must have been mad last week over that blocked extra point. They must have let out their anger because, boy, they put up 50 in the first half. LSU was angry after last week, and it showed here. 65-17, LSU wins. Now, my top 10. Going to give my honorable mentions first. And to my honorable mentions, I still have Texas here. Played a great game against Alabama. I already talked about them earlier. I believe they're a really talented team, and they have an opportunity to run the table. Tennessee, they've played great. I believe Hendon Hooker's a great quarterback. And beating a team like Pitt like that, great win. Arkansas, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm a big believer in Arkansas. KJ Jefferson is great. Their running game is pretty good. And Sam Pittman is an amazing coach. Let's hop into the top 10, though. At number 10, I have Oklahoma, headed by Brent Venables. They're 2-0. They've had a great start to the year. They beat Kent State this past weekend by a lot. And I've got them at number 10. At number 9, I have USC. I just talked about them. Their offense looks legit. Caleb Williams to Jordan Addison looks like a just lethal connection. And as they destroyed Stanford this past week, 41-28. And that earns them the number 9 spot as Lincoln Riley looks like he has it all figured out in Southern Cal. At number 8, I have Clemson. Putting them this far might be a mistake, but you know, Dabo Swinney is still an amazing coach, still runs an amazing program. But they have questions at quarterback. They have questions if they can contain this against elite opponents. But those questions will be answered. They will be answered. At number 7, I have Michigan State, starting off pretty good to the year, undefeated. Mel Tucker's a great coach. This is mostly what they've done last year. It's still It's still early in the season to really tell with a lot of these teams, but Michigan State at 7. Number 6, I have Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State with another win, undefeated. Only the second week, but, you know, undefeated Oklahoma State, mainly based on what they did for last year. I like Mike Gundy as a coach. I like Spencer Sanders as a quarterback. I got them at 6. And number 5, I have Ole Miss. Maybe a little too high, but hey, it's week 2. It'll all figure itself out. I have number 5, Ole Miss. Undefeated. Lane Kiffin is smart coach. Amazing coach. I have a lot of respect for him. And I put Ole Miss at number 5. At number 4, I have Michigan. Destroyed Hawaii this past week. Undefeated. They were great last year. Jim Harbaugh finally got over the Ohio State hump last year. And Michigan looks like they could have another really good year. At number 4, finally named J.J. McCarthy starting quarterback. At number 3, I have Ohio State. A lot of people would tell me to put them 2, but I don't think they're quite there yet. Mainly keeping them off number 2 because they barely beat Notre Dame. They struggled with Notre Dame. And as we know now, because of the Marshall game, Notre Dame's not a very good team. The fact they struggled is worrying me a little bit. And that's the only thing keeping me from bumping them up to number 2. But yeah, I think Ohio State will still be a good team. I still have Ohio State going to the national championship. C.J. Stroud is a great quarterback. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., that receiver core is nasty, and it's still Ohio State. At number 2, I have my Alabama Crimson Tide. Barely, but still undefeated. Roll Tide, roll. Escaped with a win versus Texas this week at Texas. It was scorching, 120 degrees at Texas, big environment. But you know what? We pulled out the win, 20-19. Roll Tide, I have them at number 2. And at number 1, I have the Georgia Bulldogs. I won't get as much hate for this anymore because most people, this is the consensus now. But my rule is always, if the national champion, the defending national champion, they stay number 1 until they lose. Until Georgia loses, they will be number 1 no matter what. Even if they beat every single team by 1. But as long as they don't lose, they are my number 1 team until they do. But with the way Alabama played this weekend, the AP poll and most people have Georgia at number 1. I don't expect that to be that controversial. But, roll tide roll. I'll be happy when Georgia slips up. And I'll be happy when Alabama can get some revenge. But that was my recap and my top 10 after week 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's your top 10? What's your disagreements? What's your biggest shock from the weekend? How did you feel about the Alabama game? I know I have a lot of Alabama fans. That was a close one. It was. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for watching this video. Peace out.